Hello and welcome to this video in which we shall discuss the sum and product of roots. So let's first discuss how to find the sum and product. So let's say, for example, that we have x squared plus 5x plus 6 equals to 0. Now, we note that this is factorized into x plus 3 times x plus 2 equal 0. So x equals -3 and x equals -2. Let's take another example. Let's say, for example, x squared plus 9x plus 20 equals to 0. So this is x plus 5 times x plus 4. So x equals -5 and x equals -4. Let's take a third example. So x squared minus x minus 42 equals to 0. X minus 7 times x plus 6 equals to 0. X equals to 7, x equals to -6. Now, for each of these cases, we want to get the sum of the roots and the product of the roots. So let's do it for the first case. The sum is -3 plus -2, which is -5. And the product is -3 times -2, which is +6. Here, the sum is -9, and the product is +20. And here, the sum is 1, and the product is -42. Now, for each of these cases as well, let's just find the values of A and B and C. So here, A is 1, B is 5, and C is 6. Here, A is 1, B is 9, C is 20. Here, excuse me, A is 1, B is -1, and C is -42. Now, we want to draw some comparisons between B and C and S and P. First, let's compare C and P in each case. So C is 20 and P is 20. In the second case, in the first case, so C is 6 and P is 6. And in the third case, C is -42 and P is -42. Of course, I did 3 different examples so that we are in no doubt that there is no coincidence here. C will always be equal to the product of the 2 roots. Now, let's figure out the relationship between B and S. So in the first example, B is 5 and S is -5. In the second example, B is 9 and S is -9. In the third example, B is -1 and S is 1. So what conclusions can we draw? We can draw the first conclusion that we said, which is that C is always equal to P and B is always equal to -S, or of course S is always equal to -B. So we can get the product and the sum of 2 roots of a quadratic equation simply by looking at the equation by eye. However, one important modification is that the x power 2 cannot have any number next to it. So here we have a -1, so we can just multiply the whole thing by -1. So we get x squared plus x plus 13 equals to 0. So therefore, B equals 1, which tells us that S is -1, and C equals 13, which tells us that P equals 13. Here they just want the product, so the product is 13. Let's try another example. So we said that the sum is always negative B and the product is always C, provided that x power 2 has no number next to it. So let's just divide everything here by 2. So we get x squared minus 3x plus 11 over 2 equals 0. So the sum is going to be 3, so the opposite of B, and C, the product is C, which is 11 over 2. So here they want the sum, so the sum is positive 3. Let's try another one. Again, the first thing we do is we make sure that the x power 2 is alone without the coefficient. So divided by 6, divided by 6, divided by 6. So we get x power 2 minus 13 over 6x minus 1 over 3 equals 0. Here they want the sum. So the sum is just positive 13 over 6. Let's try another one. Again, first step is to divide everything by negative 5. So we get x power 2 plus 18 over 5x minus 8 over 5 equals 0. Here they want the sum again, so the sum is negative 18 over 5. Again, divide by negative 1 or multiply by negative 1. So x squared plus 28x plus 5 equals 0. Here they want the product, so we just take the C with the same sign. So positive 5. And this brings us to the end of our video. I hope this has been beneficial. Thank you for watching.